Have you heard about the dictator's trap? Every strong man falls into it. They put their ego above reason. They put ambitions above their people, and ultimately they lose out. Right now, Xi Jinping is rushing into the dictator's trap. He's losing allies. His health is deteriorating. His rivals are ganging up, sort of like cruising into a disaster. Let's start with his one-time ally, WHO chief, Dr. Tedros. They were best buddies for the last 2 years. Everything China did, Dr. Tedros approved. Lockdowns, mass testing, apparently everything was gold standard in China. Well, not anymore. Dr. Tedros has unfriended Xi Jinping. Listen to what he said about zero COVID.
When we talk about the zero COVID strategy, we don't think that it's sustainable considering the behavior of the virus now and what we anticipate in the future. And especially when we have now a good knowledge, understanding of the virus, and when we have good tools to use, transiting into another strategy will be very important.
Well, about time. Normally, Dr. Tedros is quick on the keyboard. He responds immediately to any government policy. This time, he was slow. The lockdown in Shanghai began more than a month ago. There have been hardships, violation of human rights. But during all of it, Dr. Tedros was silent. Now, he has finally criticized it. How is China responding? Well, friend or not, criticism is where China draws the line. Tedros' comments have been wiped off the Chinese internet. On Weibo, hashtag Tedros has been censored. On WeChat, the United Nations official handle was suspended. The same handle that posted Tedros' remarks. The foreign ministry in Beijing had a snark retort as well. Listen to this.
We hope that those concerned will look at China's pandemic prevention and control policy objectively and rationally, and be more aware of the facts rather than making irresponsible comments.
Well, I guess it's true. Breakups are indeed ugly. Jokes aside, there is no science behind zero COVID. It is pure paranoia. Let me tell you about a study published by Shanghai's Fudan University. It is basically a doomsday prediction. If China lifts zero COVID, 1.6 million people could die. That is what the study claims. 1.6 million deaths, Chinese study. Now, other countries too dealt with Omicron. Nowhere did 1.6 million people die. So two things could be happening here. A, China's vaccines are paper tigers. They cannot protect against Omicron. Or B, China is peddling fear to maintain zero COVID. Because let's face it, there is no way out for Xi Jinping. If he repeals zero COVID, he must admit defeat. He must accept that his policy failed. But people like Xi Jinping do not accept mistakes. They would much rather let their people suffer. Let me show you some numbers. Right now, 373 million people are under lockdown in China. Put together, that's 45 cities. These cities make up 40% of China's total GDP. In other words, $7.2 trillion. All of that has ground to a halt. And the result is this, an economic slowdown, what some are calling localized recessions. Some more numbers for you. China's projected growth this year is 5.5%. That's what they're expecting. The IMF has cut the forecast to 4.4%. A few agencies are projecting on only 4%. And if that happens, Xi Jinping is in big trouble. He inherited a booming economy, but his policies have dismantled it. All the crackdowns on big tech, all the attacks on private capital, well, Xi Jinping got what he wanted. Private capital is fleeing China. These are the figures for March 2022. Investors dumped $18 billion in Chinese bonds. 18 billion. 7 billion in Chinese stocks. And remember, this was before the lockdowns began to bite. Chances are April was worse. So you've got a perfect storm brewing in China. A needless and unscientific lockdown, an exodus of foreign investors, an aging population, and finally rising expenditure. And that last one is thanks to Xi Jinping's ice cream buddy, Russian President Vladimir Putin. There are also rumors about Xi Jinping's health. Reports say he's suffering from a cerebral aneurysm. What does that mean? Aneurysms are basically a bulge in blood vessels. If they occur in the brain, it is called a cerebral aneurysm. Now, this condition is very serious. Sometimes it's fatal. If this bulge ruptures, you could bleed into your brain. Having said that, these are unconfirmed reports. We cannot verify them. Neither has China confirmed them. So right now it's all speculation. The problem is the timing. It is the worst possible timing for Xi Jinping. Later this year, he is looking to secure another term, a historic third term as China's president. But the headlines do not look good. Millions under lockdown, exports in free fall, investors in retreat. Not exactly the best campaign pitch. And don't get me wrong, Xi Jinping's re-election has nothing to do with the people. This is not a democratic country. What I'm talking about is perceptions. Xi Jinping promised to make China a global powerhouse. 2 terms later, he has failed. So China's dear leader has 2 options, either fix the bad headlines or create new ones. And since Xi Jinping is obsessed with zero COVID, he could choose the second option, creating new headlines. And that could be anything, a war in Taiwan, more piracy in the South China Sea, anything to distract the world and his own people. That's the dangerous thing about the dictator's trap. It makes them even more volatile.